Welcome to Machine Builder Talk, the podcast where industry leaders, innovators, and visionaries in the industrial machine building world share their insights, challenges, and breakthroughs. Here are your hosts, Colin Cartwright and Craig Henry.
Well, everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Machine Builder Talk. I'm one of your hosts, Colin Cartwright, and my co-host over there is Craig Henry. Hey, Craig, how's it going today?
It's going great. It's always fun to do the podcast. There's a lot of prep, a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I'll let the audience know, if you happen to see any visuals of this, that Colin has a new green light. And he's wearing green. He's got the green hat. He's got the green jacket. It's a lot of green. So tell us about why the green? There's a reason.
Well, what was yesterday? Yesterday was March the 17th, right?
Yes, it was.
So I'm still celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
So some people get real into this, very heavy duty. I'm down in Louisiana, and believe it or not, my son had 2 days off school for Mardi Gras. They do that down here. So it's a big deal. We actually try to stay away from all of that shenanigans going on generally, but I found it funny that we celebrate that. Now, are you a big celebrator of St. Patty's Day and in making beer green and stuff like that?
Well, funny enough, it's 2 weeks until St. Patrick's Day because we're recording this episode prior to Patrick's Day. And this year, Craig, you and I are going to be in the city of the Irish for St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to be there on March the 17th in Chicago with the river dyed green, enjoying the Chicago hospitality on St. Patrick's Day for the first time ever. It's going to be interesting.
Interesting. That's a very safe word. Yes, we will be together. And so once this thing goes live, it will have been 1 day since St. Patty's Day, and hopefully we'll still be among the living. I do not plan to swim in the river when it's green. I'm not going to promise I won't, but that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be big. And both Colin and I, working with Merle Electronic, green is our color. So I will say that it's a double whammy for us. And we're going to do a whole PR thing saying, look, the river, it's green. We did that. Nothing to do with us. Anyway.
I think we should. Anyway, enough about that. We have a really great guest on the show today. And I'm really excited to bring this young man onto the show because he's a standout guy in the PMMI organization. That's where I met him. So if anyone's listening out there, the PMMI is the Packaging Industry Association. If you're not a member and you're in the packaging industry, you should join. There's so many benefits to it. But I'm going to welcome Alex Vargo, who's the Vice President of Manufacturing at LAKO, where he oversees the day-to-day manufacturing operations, drives efficiency and innovation in precision tooling and automation. He's got a strong background in manufacturing operations, CNC programming, mechanical design engineering. Alex plays a key role in optimizing processes and ensuring high quality production. Now, he's also, before transitioning into a manufacturing leadership role, Alex was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Alex, welcome to Machine Builder Talk. Really excited to hear your take on how you went from being a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps to being the VP of manufacturing at only 28 years old. Welcome to the show.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. That was a great intro right there. I really do appreciate that.
You got it. That's all that we have time for.
That's it. Huh? I got to wrap it up.
No, I can't wait to hear.
That's it. Your promo's done. Okay. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about your background and tell us how you even thought about signing up for the Marine Corps and how you progressed into the automation and manufacturing industry to where you are today. I would love to hear the story.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I can take you back all the way to the beginning if you want. When I say the beginning, we're probably talking, I don't know, but about 12 years ago, I started down the route of getting into the manufacturing industry. The military part of it was ever since I was a young age. I really don't know why I had a drive to want to join the military and the Marine Corps specifically. But I think it could have been one of those cool little commercials when I was a kid, maybe. Could have been it. But anyways, I always wanted to do the military. I always knew I wanted to do the Marine Corps. I thought that I always wanted to serve to my country in some way or another. So that's why I chose the Marine Corps. Or the military in general. But back to the manufacturing part, I kind of have an odd route on how I got to become the VP of manufacturing at LAKO. When I was in high school, they say when you're in high school, you have three choices. One, you can join the workforce, join the military, or go to college, right? That's like your three basic choices that they give you. So I go, being the overachiever I am, I guess, I go, well, let me see how many of them I can do. So there was a vocational school slash trade school you could attend. So that's what I did my junior and senior year of high school. I attended a half day at that school, and I went into a program called DEA, which stood for Design, Engineering, and Architecture. So about halfway through your junior year, you had a choice. And they said, do you want to go down the engineering route or the architecture route? Well, for some reason, I wanted to go down the engineering route. I always wanted to be a mechanical engineer. That was the goal. So what they did is they kind of got you into machining classes, learning how to CNC machine in my junior year of high school. So after high school, I left for a year for training. I came back. I then joined that apprenticeship, and I did a 4-year apprenticeship, became a journeyman machinist. So I was doing my military simultaneously as I was doing my apprenticeship, while I was also attending college for my apprenticeship. So during that time, I finished out my apprenticeship, got my journeyman's card. I then went on, completed a manufacturing engineering degree at the same time, since I had some time left on my apprenticeship. I had all my classes done. And I just kind of worked in the trade of tool and die, machining, CNC machining for a few years. And that's what led me to LAKO. I wanted to get into programming. When I say programming, I know a lot of people think of like PLC programming and things of that nature. But I was more in the CNC programming side of things, programming, cutting tools, cutting metal. And LAKO had a position open to do that, so I joined them. I was the CAM manager, programming manager there for about a year, a little over a year or so. And there was an opening for a mechanical design engineer at LAKO, and I said, well, let me join, just see what that's all about. That was the whole point of doing all this, right? Well, I could have been successful at it. I was successful at it, I should say, but I learned real quick that the mechanical engineering wasn't really my knack. I found that manufacturing operations was really where I nature, and I was like, okay, let me do that. So some shifting happened around in the company, and I spent enough time on the floor, both from programming and engineering. I knew the company really well. I knew the operations side really well. That's how I ended up taking on the vice president of manufacturing role at LAKO. So kind of an odd route to get there, but that's the long, short story.
What a story. Wow, that's incredible. Now, what was your biggest or most memorable experience in the Marine Corps? Tell me about that.
Well, I'd say most memorable, I'd say it was just a conglomerate of all my entire time in just the friendships and the bonds that you make. It's a lot different than any friendships and bonds you'll make in the civilian world. You go through a lot of stuff together that nobody else understands unless they've been through it, right? One of the best experiences, I thought, we did a training event out in California, 29 Palms, California, one summer. The heat was miserable, of course. It was 110 degrees every single day. You went to bed, it was 95. But that was a cool experience. It was a joint task experience. And so when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in the logistics side of things. So I was the guy that got everybody and everything where they needed to be. So when you're talking 600 to 700 Marines at different points around the desert, navigating all that simultaneously day and night was a pretty cool experience. But I never did any deployments, unfortunately. I've always wanted to. We had a chance to, but it never ended up happening. So that'd be the coolest story, I would have to say.
It always seemed to be really extreme weather, whether it would be really cold, really wet, or really hot. And I remember one time on the range, we were firing small arms and 66 mil anti-tank weapons, and we were setting the grass on fire. So we had to basically take out all our tracers from our machine gun belts and put them all aside. And then on the last night of the exercise, it was a night range, and it was a purpose-built range with trenches and basically targets that pop up every 50 meters coming towards you, right? As if the enemy's attacking you. So the ground was soaked with this dew at about 2:00 in the morning. And we got the command that was passed down the line. get using those tracers. So I was a machine gunner at the time, and I filled my belt with 7.62 tracer rounds. Every single round was a tracer. And we lit that range up. It was one of the most memorable nights of my whole life because there were tracer rounds going absolutely everywhere. All the riflemen had tracers in their magazines. The machine guns had tracers. And there were these two marker lights at the end of the range that were glowing. They were like a green marker. And we were young. We'll take these lights out. And so everyone started, getting distracted from the targets coming towards them, started shooting at these lights in the background. And they'd gotten on to this idea that someone had done this before because it wasn't a light. It was a light shining onto a metal plate. And so the rounds hit this metal plate and they start ricocheting, and you get the ricochet noises going on. And it was just for about 20 minutes. It was just total mayhem, but really memorable experience. And the camaraderie is still there. I still in contact with some of my platoon mates, 40 years later. Yeah, we're coming to 40 years now. So now I had an experience about one we talked about a little bit before the show, is calling a lady or woman officer sir. And I think you've had that experience too, right? Do you want to tell us about that?
I did actually. When I was in boot camp, it was, for Marine Corps, the boot camp is 13 weeks and you meet up. So you can have a sister platoon when at times, depending on when you go to boot camp. And I was at that one of those times. So we had a sister platoon, and I think around it's the 7 to 9 week mark. I can't exactly remember, but you join up with your sister platoon and you do a lot of field operations together. So you have all the female drill instructors out there with you, and you're in. I don't even know. Really, I don't remember what we were doing anymore. But I remember something was said, and I heard something. I said, "Sir." I said, "Over here, sir," or whatever I said. And next thing I know, this woman turned around, came sprinting full force right at me, got up on my jaw. She's screaming at me, and I'm like, I will never again call a woman sir. That stung real bad. I was like, oh,
what was your
goodness.
punishment? Did she say you had to do push-ups, or did you have to run, or was it just a dressing down of sorts?
Yeah, it's just chewing me out. I think I got lucky. It was just the timing of it. She had to get back to wherever she was going, right? So she had to take care of whatever she had to do, and so I got lucky. But yeah, it was she chewed me out pretty good. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can relate. My experience was she turned around and she says, "I'm not a sir. I am a mom." I had to call her mom. Yes, mom. It's kind of funny with the tradition of the British Army. But anyway, to get off that case, next question, I guess, let's tell us a little bit more about LAKO and what they specialize in.
Yeah, so at LAKO, we pride ourselves on being the sealing solution provider for any horizontal and vertical form fill seal applications.
Wow.
So any seal jaws that do any sealing, cutting, or punching on flexible packaging machines. That's where it's very niche. It's really one tight knit part of the entire packaging machine. But at LAKO, we feel it's one of the most important factors, because if you can't seal the package, then everything that happened before and everything that's going to happen after is pointless. We've been doing it I think we've been in business for 48 years now. So we sell direct to some OEMs, not many. We have more of the bottom-up approach. So a lot of our customers are, CPGs and things of that nature. So that's really what we do. Anything with seal jaws, anything cutting and punching is what we specialize in.
Wow, Alex, I have a couple questions
follow up
for
to
you.
that. So how are you dealing with? You want to go, Craig? I got to follow up on sustainability because of the change in sealing.
Yeah, let me go first here. So, Alex, you started out with a metal cutting operation, and you mentioned CAD CAM. You were doing programming eventually of CNC machines.
Yeah.
So all about feeds and speeds and stuff. So that's actually exactly the place where I started my career. I was still going to college, but working part-time as basically a manufacturing engineer and doing CAD CAM. And I loved it. I loved going to the plant, and I love seeing that metal getting cut. And so you and I have definitely a common start there. So are you still involved with that now at LAKO? Are you involved with the machining or stamping or any of the things that are going on to make these sealing jaws?
Oh yeah, I definitely am. Although I'm in this role, I haven't completely stepped away from more so the programming side than the engineering side. I work with the programming department every single day, working with them, trying to improve our processes, trying to increase, our cutting feeds and speeds like you had mentioned, or looking into new toolings they can make us go quicker that'll last longer, or reducing costs. I'm heavily involved. I honestly have the software still on my laptop. I pull it up. Now it's turned into almost a daily thing. I'll have guys on the floor that might come to me real quick because I can dive into it and give them a solution a little quicker. That way they don't bother our programming department. They can just bother me real quick. But yeah, I'm still heavily involved with it. I'll tell you what, the programming side of things I do enjoy. If I ever, I might end up wanting to do something like that again one day. Who knows? Because I did like it that much.
It's so fun to see. And I liked drawing the parts and bringing them in and then putting the tool paths together, and a new machine would come online. Oh, it can do that. Oh, it has an automatic tool changer. And all kinds of things were possible on these 5-axis and 6-axis systems. But that was a long time ago for me. But I've never lost it. I've always loved that. And I have a good friend, about my next door neighbor. He owns a machine shop, and he does all kinds of stuff all the time. And I get to sometimes bug him and go see what he's working on. But that's a fun place to be. And it's funny you mentioned how you never really lose or drop your previous roles when you stay at a company like you have, right? So I always know you as the guy who knows that.
Right.
So you're going to bypass all the systems. So good luck with that as VP, trying to be a generalist.
Yeah, thanks.
At the same time. Okay, well, I want to turn it back over to Colin.
Yeah. So, Alex, with sustainability being a big focus now with packaging, manufacturers, and how is LAKO overcoming that challenge? Are you getting into new types of sealing of, non-plastic, non-resin type, bags and packaging?
We are actually. So that's what makes LAKO stand out, actually, is our customization, the way our engineering department, right? So what I'm getting at is we have a full-on test lab at LAKO. So we'll have our customers send us their films, whether it be a plastic-based film or a paper-based, or we've actually just recently seen some seaweed-based films. So yeah, we are seeing a change in that direction towards sustainability, to a different type of material being sealed. And with that brings its own challenges, of course. You can heat up a plastic and melt it all day long, but you can't do that with papers. If you get it too hot, you might burn it. So there's definitely a fine line there, and we are seeing that more often, especially over in Europe. It's a really big thing in Europe. But we're seeing they have the 2030 sustainable goals and all that. So they're switching their films over, and we're seeing a lot more difficulty sealing the new packages that are coming our way. But we're figuring it out.
I can imagine, working at the melting temperature of seaweed would be a challenge.
Yeah. And we're also looking at other ways to seal. So we do a few different forms of sealing. It's, heat seal, cold seal, or ultrasonic sealing. But there's other ways to seal out there that they're popping up. We're seeing them pop up, and so we're investigating them and seeing how we can be a part of those.
It's going to be an interesting next 5 years in that part of the industry, I think.
No, absolutely.
All right. Up to you, Craig.
Alex, is there a growth strategy to expand capabilities, expand customer types, go deeper in your current customers? What's your strategy to grow? Because I assume everyone that works for you wants to grow the company.
Absolutely. So like I was alluding to a little bit ago, we've always had the more bottom-up approach. Mm-hmm. So for us, for growth, we really are trying to target getting into the OEMs. When you think about it, the OEM manufacturers of a packaging machine, they're worrying about the whole machine, not so much the sealing portion itself. So why not bring the experts in that portion into the realm and let us provide you the seal jaws, the cutting and punching equipment to attach to your machine, because we already are doing that anyways, and allow us to provide that right up front to your customers. And then we can even take it one step further and find out what your customers are actually going to be putting on that line, test that all out beforehand. So when they get a machine that's delivered to them, it's operational, can seal exactly what they want right off the rip. There's no like testing time and trying to have to reevaluate.
That's huge, because it's collaboration in 3 ways, right? So you're working with the OEM who's building the machine for the customer. You've got the skills and the specialties in the sealing portion of that machine. And the machine builder is good at building machines, but they're not so necessarily focused on the sealing part of it as a core capability. And getting you involved makes a lot of sense because they get a solution developed that works by specialists, that do that. And also the customer benefits from faster turnaround, less testing, better quality, less defects, less reworks, or scrap, right? So there's a lot
Absolutely.
of benefits there.
The other good part too is at LAKO we have some patented products. So we have patented seal jaws of our own that actually make the interchangeability of seal jaws much quicker and easier. And that's really been our claim to fame for years now. So providing that right up front to the customer long term is going to be cost effective for them. So I think that's another thing that we're starting to see it more. We're starting to have more conversations with certain OEMs, and I think that those relationships are evolving pretty rapidly, actually. But it's rapidly, it's perspective, I guess. Depends. It's still going to take time, of course.
Interesting approach. Wow. So you are dealing with an end user and their technologies and what their desires are. And then are you a subcomponent of the overall machine that you want the OEM to then specify? Or are you a sidecar? Are you guys together?
No, I'd say we're just like you had stated, just a one component of the machine that we'd like to come in and be a part of.
Yeah, it makes sense to get you in at that stage when they're looking at sealing, right? It's just like us for Mer Electronic, Craig, when we're talking about connectivity and, IO signals and optimizing those IO systems to less cables, faster installations. Alex is doing the same thing, or Alex's company, LAKO, are doing the same thing when it comes to that portion of the machine at that point, because they can put stuff in bags and everything before it gets there. And then if it's not sealed properly,
Yeah.
it defeats the whole purpose, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of returns.
Wow.
So what's the biggest challenge companies like LAKO have right now in the industry?
I'd say the biggest challenge, like Craig has said, we're a machine shop essentially at the end of the day. I mean, that's what we do. We're, through and through a machine shop. And I think for me right now is finding that skilled talent out there. I know everybody struggles with that, of course. That's a huge topic for everyone. But I do think that's a big problem for us right now, is finding those guys that you can kind of bring them right in and they can hit the ground running. It's a good problem to have, but as of probably the past 3 months, maybe 6 months, we've noticed it. But trying to keep up with our work, our building is only so big, and we can only fit so many machines in that space and cut so much metal at once. So trying to keep up and hit all these due dates, I mean, that's my main responsibility, right? So that's been my biggest challenge, is trying to reduce our lead times. I think I've done a pretty solid job at it in this role since I've been in it, but it's an ongoing challenge, of course. And with us growing and adding new customers on and bigger quantities of components, that brings its own challenges, and trying to figure out how we're going to get it all done by the time the customer wants it.
I think you did a great job at reorganizing your shop there. I saw the
Thank you.
before and after photos of that. And so you've got a better flow through the machines now. So a handoff from one machine to the next is a little bit easier, and walking across the whole room, things like that. Wow. Yeah, look, they did a great job on that.
How had you
Thank you.
weathered the supply chain issues of the last 3 years? Because, and it's still changing, and it's very volatile now because there's a whole lot of nearshoring and onshoring happening right this minute. But have you had to wrestle with supply chain and components for what you do, even like raw material and steel or stainless steel?
When it comes to raw material, not so much. I don't think we've had any serious issues with that. Some components for some of our bigger assemblies that we do, we have noticed, we'll have a 12 or 16 week lead time on one component. That's one of those things you have to navigate around and work with your customer. But anybody nowadays, your customers pretty much understand the problems because they're experiencing them too. So
Yeah.
as long as you are building a good relationship with that customer, we tend to be able to get around it, whether we provide them a portion as quick as we can and then give them the rest at the end and allow them time to integrate it into their system. I wouldn't say we've seen many issues with supply chain that have really affected us.
That's great news. That's refreshing to hear. So many have struggled.
Now you ask our supply chain manager, he might tell you otherwise. But from my end, mostly deals with the raw stocks part of it, and I haven't seen it too much.
Wonderful.
Okay. I would like to learn a little bit more about your leadership philosophies because you've been through the Army, you've served as a non-commissioned officer, as a sergeant. How do you take some of those leadership skills, the skills that you acquired, into the business world? I mean, there's a big difference between Marine Corps and the business world. So tell us what you're doing on that.
Yeah, you're right. It is completely different. I can't come at the guys in our shop the way you would come at someone in the Marine Corps, right? You you might get some people quitting, or you might get some haymakers thrown your way, and whatnot. So yeah, it's a totally different perspective. But I think I've been able to harness the discipline part of it. I think I come off more as a people person. I like to lead from the front. That's something that I really strive to be. Is somebody that when oh, you remember Alex? Yeah, he was the guy that led from the front. He was the guy that wherever somebody or a job needed filled in, he stepped in and did it. I've seen a lot of bad leaders, in the Marine Corps, just the guys that will just yell at you and say, "Hey, go do this, go do that," and then you catch them messing around or whatever. So being that guy that steps into any role that's needed to get the job done is the way I approach leadership. Being a people person, being someone that listens more than talks, understands each person and values each person individually. What they bring to the table it's been massive for me.
What a combination.
It's a hard transition, Alex. It really is a hard transition because you're used to the discipline and you have expectations that you can be taught in the military. You're trained to think that the impossible is possible, okay, and that you have total trust in your colleagues, your peers, to make sure that they do the jobs that they're supposed to do, and you have total trust in them because you're dealing with people's lives, right?
Yeah,
And when you
absolutely.
come into we call it Civvy Street in UK, but you come back into civilian life, you still have that in you, and your expectations for other people are still very high. Can you talk about that? How you manage to keep your expectations of other people's work or your expectations of what they can achieve in what's the word I'm looking for?
In like civilian life.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the way I do it is I pretty much, make it known as to what I want done, right? So I set a agenda basically. This is what I want done, but I allow guys to figure it out on their own. I'm there if they need my help, but I never want to be that guy that's holding their hand, right? I'm trying to build people. I want them to cross train and learn additional tasks. If everybody in our company can do everything, that'd be amazing. Of course, that's never going to happen. We all know that. But trying to bring that, I don't really know how to word it, I guess, but that open-mindedness and that discipline to, hey, you have to learn this yourself. You need to take initiative yourself. And when that doesn't happen, then we have conversations or whatever needs to be done. But my goal is to build people, rather than just having them come to LAKO for a job, right? I want them to come to LAKO and go, oh, hey, this place is awesome, great environment. I want to build a career here. Let me learn as much as I possibly can to help out with the for the future growth of the company. I think that answered your question. I might have went off track a little bit there.
No, I think you're good. What I learned from coming out of the Army was that the good leaders didn't have to tell people what to do; they asked them to do. So the difference between asking and telling is the
Yeah,
biggest differentiator.
that's perfect. You just said that perfect. That's exactly it.
Okay, Craig, I see you itching there.
No, there's a couple of things coming to mind. I remember this commercial on TV, and of course, it's become a platitude of we do more before 10 a.m. than most people do all day. That expression that comes from the military. And I think about Alex, like he's done more in his career than I've done in mine, and he's younger than me significantly. But somehow you've been able to do something. There's a compliment in all this. Stay with me on this. So you have this capability, from what I can tell, from what you said, to have empathy for people. You want to build people, but you also want to keep discipline. You also want to keep the rigors of doing a great job. High performance doesn't come easy. And it seems like you've found a way to lead, and finding yourself in a VP role is not by accident, I can imagine, because you have that combination of building people with empathy, but also not just letting it be a free-for-all and everybody's feelings are supreme. I think that's terrific. I think that maybe something that you don't realize, but is in fact a very rare quality. So you don't have to respond to that, but that's what I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I guess comes back to your youth, and usually people on the show so far have been a little older than you, Alex. So it's going to be interesting to hear your perspective on this. But what's the one piece of advice that you can give to younger people that, may be looking at coming into the automation and manufacturing industry? What's the one piece of advice that you could pass on?
Don't sit on the sidelines. Learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. That is just clean, cut, and dry. What I mean by don't sit on the sidelines is, if you notice, speak up is essentially what I'm getting at, right? Do it in a tactful way, approach it in the right ways, but when you notice something is wrong, whether it be within the workplace or with a person or whatever it may be, bring it to the right people's attention. If you don't do that, sit there and you watch things happen, things pass by you over time, and next thing you know, you're 5 years into it, whatever, many years into it, and looking back, you wish you would have said something. You wish you would have brought it up. So I think, don't sit on the sidelines, take things head on, take the initiative, have the courage to tackle the hard things. And if it's hard, there's a reason. It's because you just don't know it yet. You're not that experienced. I mean, I'm young. I'm still experiencing this myself, especially in this role. But I go into it with, hey, we're not getting out of here at the end of the day. Let's put our head down and figure this out, right? Maybe that's a little morbid. I don't know, but there's a little truth into it. That's my advice. Yeah, have the courage to speak up. The other thing is, learn as much as you can. Don't get stagnant. Once you're getting stagnant, go find something else to learn. I'm not saying leave your company. I'm not saying to go to a different department in your company, but go to your managers, go to your leaders, say, hey, I'm kind of stagnant. I'm doing the same thing day in and day out. What can I learn that's new? I want to become the best version of myself. And that's the best way to grow, is to learn as much as you can. And the quicker that you learn things, the quicker good things are going to happen for you, basically.
That's great advice. I think you're absolutely right there. Never stop learning, I think, is the phrase to use there. But yeah, I think you put it perfectly. If you are in a job where you feel you're not being challenged, go to your manager and ask them to help. What can I be doing to be advancing myself and being better, improving myself? And hopefully you get a good manager that gives you some ideas and you can follow through.
Yeah, and,
right?
and you'll learn something from that too, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Which manager not to go and talk to?
Yeah. You'll learn just as much from a bad manager as you will a good one.
I think they should come and find you, Alex, in your company. I think you're full of great ideas. So
yeah, come on over. We'll find something for you. We're growing. We'll need it.
All right, Craig, come on. You got some questions here. I'm asking all the questions.
No, you're doing great. But I do have some questions. And there's one that we do ask that is, I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say on this. Is there a tool? Is there a method? Is there a software that you absolutely cannot do without that helps you do your job better?
Is there a software or a tool? Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific software that's coming to mind. I would have to say, from the programming side of things, right? We use Mastercam. This is what we use to program our equipment. And if we did not have that, we would not be cutting metal very quickly at all. So that's been huge for LAKO as a whole, as I would say.
That is a great advance.
Yeah, I don't really have a specific one.
Well, that's cool. That's a great tool. CAD/CAM is fantastic. I want to dig into that for a second. Could you, if you wanted to, write M code and G code all day and just do it longhand? That's hard. Every machine has different.
I'd be a lot slower at it now, that's for sure. I used to be really fast at doing it by hand. I got away from doing it by hand probably 5-6 years ago. But yeah, I think I could do it. But I don't think with the technology now that it would be very efficient. It would be very inefficient, I think.
It's funny you say that because Bobby Cole was on our show last week or 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And one of the portions of that was that he started talking about G code. And when you're talking about CNC, I was thinking of G codes. And he's saying you don't have to do G code anymore because you got this thing called AI. AI. I don't say it as well as he did, but
No,
you know, that's what we're seeing now is that, you know, AI can write that G code for you.
yeah, that's very true. So we actually use Mazak machines. That's the CNC
Yeah.
manufacturer that we choose the most. They actually have an AI. They're known for their Mazatrol, their internal proprietary software to program parts, and it's phenomenal. One of our machines has their AI technology in it, where you can actually bring a 3D model from SolidWorks straight into the monitor at the machine, and it'll program it for you right there in a matter of minutes. Now, it's
Wow.
not perfect. You have to go in and tweak it, but it will do it all for you. And I've witnessed it. We've tested it out. It works. And it's actually an incredible feature.
So how do you see the future of AI, and especially in, let's say, in your context, in manufacturing and in machining, you know, where is it going to take you? What's it going to be able to do for you?
I think it's going to be a game changer. I mean, they've already started coming out with it to program. Basically, there's already softwares out there that you can plug into, let's say Mastercam, for instance, an AI software that'll do the same thing. You present it with the 3D model, you present it with the tools that you would like it to use, and it'll program it for you. So I think that is going to be a game changer over the next 5 to 10 years. You're no longer going to need an entire cam department. You're probably only going to need one or two guys that can do all of your parts because they can program it a lot quicker, which is going to make them a lot more efficient. So it's, for our end of things, it's going to be huge. We haven't really dove into it too much just because it's so new, so fresh. But I would like to see our guys get into it here down the road and at least just dabble with it and see what it's all about.
Have you come together with your management to put together a viability team to look into how AI can benefit your business?
No, we haven't actually, but that would be a great idea. I should bring that back. It would be good. There's so many uses for AI, of course, outside of just the what I was getting at, the manufacturing part of it. There's a lot of uses for it. And yeah, we should probably look at it a little bit closer.
I think quite a few companies are doing that now.
Yeah,
Sorry, Craig.
I saw that. It's a tool that's, I think in a lot of industries, I just read something about the number of hours and the percentage of hours of jobs in general that can be reduced by using AI tools. And I like the way it was put because it's not about we're kicking people out of jobs. That's not it. But AI is a tool just like having a CAD CAM system is going to save time in programming. It's the same person, it's the same product, just going to make it go faster. And I think automation is a place where the number was about 32% was the expected decrease in time to accomplish the same thing. And in this case, planning, toolpaths, and all that, I think it can be a big jump forward. When I was doing CAD CAM, I had never run the machine that I was programming for. In fact, I was writing programs for 25 machines across a very big metal cutting facility, and was talking with one of the machine operators, and he and I had talked and chatted before, and I've been working with him for 6 months, and he asked me, he says, "When were you on this machine?" And I said, "Oh, I've never run that machine." And he stopped, and he shut the machine down, and he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I've never run any machine." And he couldn't believe that I would create these programs that he had never had a problem with ever. And yet before having that tool, the guy who did it before me was writing it by hand. And they had problems, and they'd have to go, "Oh, come back out here, and oh, you need to change this, or this speed, or this is coming in too quick, or it's too close, I'm getting nervous." But the tool actually made the quality better for an ignoramus like me, who just had to come out of, I was a college boy, and no one didn't give me any respect. So anyway, I see that there is a benefit, and AI, I encourage you to do it. There will be another movement forward like that, I think. It will be able to see more optimization. We'll be able to squeeze out maybe a shorter cycle time or whatever, because it is certainly just another tool. It's not going to take over the world. It doesn't have when I get AI to create images and stuff for me, it's just really dumb. It can't figure stuff out. And maybe I don't have the right tools, but there's no context here. There's no knowledge here. It's just throwing stuff up. Is this what you want? But nonetheless, I digress. I encourage it, and I think that in CAD CAM it could be really cool. And I've never seen Mesotrol, but can you put in like a casting 3D model and then your finished product model, and it does everything?
Yeah, so we've only got one machine in our shop that actually can do this. But we basically it's a round, we took a round part, for instance, and it had a couple contours and cavities and holes inside of it. And we just took that finished model, put it into the system, and then told it what the basic raw stock started out as, and then it programmed it from there on its own.
Beautiful.
And it was, I'm not even kidding, within 10 minutes. And it was a part that if you had programmed it through that Mesotrol system, it probably would have taken you a couple of hours to think it out and process it. Or if you had programmed it through our Mastercam system, it would have taken you a couple of hours as well to think it out and process it. But it did it within 10 minutes. It wasn't perfect. We had to go in and tweak a couple things to our preference, but it was pretty spot on for the most part.
Wow. I was amazed when I was in that department where someone would come to me in the morning and they'd say at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, I need this. And then by lunch, I had the program for them, which was lightning fast for that period of time. But now we're saying 10 minutes. That's almost instantaneous.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah.
The analogy I think that explains AI is like, if you we go back to the drill and a hole, right? I mean, we got to look at the outcome we want. We want a hole. We've got to get a drill and usually chuck that into a power tool. And then you've got to be able to have the skill to use that power tool. So AI is the power tool, basically. And we are the humans that have to direct it in the right place. The AI doesn't know where you need the hole.
Exactly.
You know, you have to give it that. It doesn't know how deep you want it. So you've got to guide it, using the power of it to actually create the hole where you want it and how deep you want it.
I think we already have a title for this episode. Lead from the front. Mic drop. That's it. Lead from the front.
I like
Alex.
that.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of.
So Alex, if you went in manufacturing and operations, what would you be doing?
Golfing.
Well, you like golf. You like golf and hiking, right? And you've got.
I do.
What's your? You have an ambition. I'm not going to tell everyone because I want you to tell everyone when it's revolved around your hiking. What is that ambition you have in life to do?
Oh, yeah. I want to visit all the U.S. national parks. I think there's 63 of them, and I've done 11 now. So I want to do it while I'm young, at least the more difficult ones, because when I go to one of the national parks, I look for the most difficult rated hike, and I want to do it. And so, yeah, that's kind of my goal. It's going to take a couple decades probably to actually get them all done, but I want to do the hard ones early. So that's
good idea. Yeah, sure.
Mantra.
But yeah, to answer your question though, totally opposite. It's the manufacturing. I think if I didn't get into manufacturing, I probably would have went into finance. Believe it or not, totally doesn't make any sense. That's probably where I would have went. That's where I would have been at.
He's VP. He's got people skills. He wants to do finance. He does hiking. What's left? Astronaut? Dentist? What am I doing with my time, Colin?
Not just a jack of all trades, a really good all-rounder.
I'll try.
I love it.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a question that gets you to ask a question. All right. So if you were sitting on this side, okay, what is one question you wish that we asked you?
Oh, man. Putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
One question that I wish you had asked.
Anything.
What if I don't come up with one?
Well, just think of something interesting about yourself that we didn't get into.
Something you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
I guess one thing wish you would have asked is what are some other hobbies, I guess, outside of golf and hike? I guess that.
What are some of the other hobbies outside of golf and hiking that you like doing, Alex?
Yeah. Well, thanks. I just recently, just this past year, got into riding motorcycles. So when I'm not golfing, I'm riding my bike. I got into it in July of last year and I'm hooked. I'm addicted to it. So
what kind of motorcycling is that? Like road motorcycling? Is that motocross? What
yeah,
kind of motorcycling?
just cruising on a cruiser, just a road bike, just going for a long ride down the beach or something in the sunset. I'm in Ohio, but I do live near Lake Erie, so I do get a little bit of some water and beach views.
What a great hobby. Just careful. Just be careful.
Yeah, of course. Safety first. My
Yeah.
wife told me, she said, you can get one, but you can never ride unless you have a helmet on. I was like, that's fair.
Well,
That's a
yeah.
fair way to put things.
That's fair enough. That's not a bad ask. Yeah. All right. So we're going to start wrapping up here. And one of the things that we do every week with our guests is ask them to refer someone that they think that should be on the show and has a lot of good stuff to share.
Yeah. I got two people in mind. Whether they would both want to do it or not is not too sure. But I'd say one person, they're both in my company, of course, they're coming to mind. His name's Bill. He's our VP of engineering. He's been with LAKO for 30 plus years.
Oh.
He knows what we do, and he knows the packaging and sealing in part of packaging like the back of his hand. So he'd be a great one to talk with. Second would be John, our CEO. He's been in, I don't know if you know him or not, Colin, but he'd be a good one. He's been in the realm for a while. He's seen all sorts of things. He's traveled the world and seen different parts of packaging and processing. And he'd be a good person to interview, I think. Bill's also traveled quite a bit as well to customers worldwide, and so he has a broad knowledge of things.
Okay, then we'll definitely follow up. We will need a referral from you if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a question before we go any further. You're in Ohio. Where in Ohio do you live? What town? Alex?
I live in Northwest Ohio. It's in Perrysburg, Ohio. It's 15 minutes south of Toledo, Ohio. I feel like Toledo's something that people typically notice or know.
Okay. I was born in Middletown, Ohio, down near Dayton. It was a long time ago. I was very young.
I've got a friend that lives down there.
Yeah. Do you know, is AK Steel a supplier for you that's down there in Middletown?
They aren't. It's so funny you mentioned it to them just about 2 years ago. That friend I was mentioning goes, "Hey man, move on down here." He goes, "I can get you a job at AK Steel." He mentioned that place. Obviously I didn't do it. I don't want to do it, but they're not a supplier to us. We use a couple of local suppliers around our area.
Gotcha. Well, that's the funny thing about it. And I know I'm just trying to draw a couple of threads between us. My grandfather worked at what was Armco Steel, and it's now AK Steel. And then my dad got a scholarship and had to work there for a few years. And that was one of the reasons he ended up working for IBM, because he wanted to get the heck out of there because it was not a great place to work. It was very difficult to work there. Your life expectancy was lower, particularly back when he was there, way back in the 60s. But anyway, he has a lot of stories about AK Steel. And there was a heyday for them. Maybe 70 years ago, they were the inventors of stainless steel. And that's why I mentioned them. They came up with that whole formulation for stainless steel and became like the super supplier for the US. But anyway, you're not getting stuff from them, but that's a connection to Ohio, and Ohio's special to me. And AK Steel is too.
I was going to ask you, are you a Ohio State fan then if you're from Ohio?
No, not really. Sorry. I'm a Vikings fan.
Oh, no.
I know. It's sad because we moved all over, because IBM stands for I've been moved. So I lived Cincinnati, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Raleigh, North Carolina through my childhood. And so I actually got really into football when I was in Minneapolis area. So I'm a Vikings fan, but I'm not like one of those I'm going to have a fight in the stands kind of fans, but
that's good.
They do that in American football too?
Pardon?
They do that in America too?
I'm not sure
stands.
if we're as violent as in Europe, but it can get rough. Yeah, it can get rough here. People start trash talking another team, and someone's got to, teach them a lesson, I guess. That's how that can happen during the tailgating outside of many places. That's why tailgating is not possible in a lot of parking lots around stadiums these days, because it gets ugly really quick. Anyway, tell me about Ohio State. You're not Ohio State fan. Oh, you've seen it. Okay. Tell us.
Oh yeah, I've been an Ohio State fan. Oh, no, I've just seen a couple brawls and had a couple of tailgating parties in the past. Nothing I was a part of or anything, but just walking past it, and you're like, oh, there's been some brawls. But again, actually in Columbus, had an Ohio State game. Go figure. But yeah, I've been an Ohio State fan for ever since since the day I was born.
Day you were born.
Always been a Buckeye. The only thing that I wish I would have went to the school there. That would have been cool.
Would have been
Yeah,
cool
never did.
too. Well, when my dad is watching football, and it's usually he's watching Big Ten football, but he's a big Ohio State fan as well. So whenever that happens, I'll call you over because he'll want a real fan by his side, and that's not me. So you have to come over. Come down to Florida.
Okay.
We'll watch
Let me know.
All right. Anything else we need to cover, Colin?
Well, I'm just curious what Alex's NFL team is.
I'll be honest, I'm not really a huge NFL fan. I'm a big college fan. People argue about this day in and day out, whether the NFL is better than than college and vice versa. I think college is way better, in my opinion, than the NFL. But again, you said it's the wrong person, you get into an argument. So I don't really have a team, I would say, but I live in an area in Northwest Ohio where you are either a Detroit Lions fan, many Cleveland Browns fans, or you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a Bear fan. All four of those teams are within. Well, Chicago's the farthest one, but within 4 hours.
I'm the only Bears fan because they've only got one, right?
You're it.
If you're not from Chicago, that is.
I'm gonna say the Bengals.
So the Bengals. Okay, so I don't feel anything for my alma mater, NC State University, the Wolfpack. I went there for 4.5 years. Should have taken me 4. It took a little longer, but I don't really follow them, the Wolfpack. So yeah, that's why I jumped to NFL when you talk about football. Yeah, good for you. It sounds like you're toeing the line there, and it's not always easy where you are.
Yeah. Depends on what house you're at for games.
Is that why you walked wide circles around the balls in the parking lots? Because you really don't want to get involved in that. Oh, anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, I'm gonna stay clear there.
Hey, while we're on sport, how's your golf game? What's your handicap?
We're just not gonna say today. It's
Come
not
on.
great, but it's not terrible. I'm right in between. No, I'm
That's
kidding.
because you're still learning.
My handicap's like a 14-15 right now. I might have a good day, shooting like the 80s, but I might have a blow up day and shoot like just over 100 or just under 100. So you never know. I'm hit or miss.
You're right. That means we can play together. That's what that means.
There.
Right, Alex. So how can people find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me would be LinkedIn, just Alex Vargo. That's pretty much where I'm at. For professional reasons, LinkedIn would be the best way to find me.
Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, young man.
Thank
You
you.
are a great example of the generations coming up in this industry. And I think we're going to be handing it off to some good hands if everyone's like you. I'm going to give you a compliment there. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I look forward to seeing you. Are you going to Atlanta for Pack Expo Southeast?
Nope, that was, taking on this role that was the one thing I kind of got rid of, was going to any shows or anything, because that's the sales, and that's mainly the sales guys and the marketing team. So no, I won't be there, but
Right. And I'll see you in Georgia in April.
possibly. I'm not sure if I'm attending this year. I'm not too sure. But there's a chance.
I hope to see you there. All right, that's a wrap. So thanks a lot, Alex. I really appreciate you coming on the show, giving us some of your time today. It's really good to hear your perspective. And we're going to wish you all the best and, all the best from here on in. And I hope you just go on to do more amazing things that you've done already and go leaps and bounds. So keep up the great work and keep inspiring people, because I think that's what you do.
Thank you very much. I
Great
appreciate that,
meeting
and
you, man.
I'll try my best to live up to it. Great meeting you as well.
All right, Alex, I'll talk to you soon.
Find us at machinebuildertalk.com and wherever you listen to interesting podcasts. We encourage you to subscribe and to reach out with your comments and questions. Until next time, make it great.